Hey Inspired Tribe, how's it going? It's Jean Nolan here, and today we're diving into one of the craziest, most out there, far-fetched theories I've ever heard. However, it's so crazy and so outrageous that there very well might be something to it. But before we do that, I wanted to tell you what my family and I do to keep our immune system up and to stay healthy. Something that's very, very important to us. We've been using Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack, and you might know Dr. Vladimir Zelenko as the man who created the Zelenko protocol. Now, Z-Stack has really had a great effect on our family. We love using it. It's vitamin C, vitamin D, quercetin, and zinc, and that all put together in the right amount, in the right formula. So if you want to take care of your health today, if you want to take care of your family's health today, then you can use coupon code INSPIRED and save on your next Z-Stack order. I encourage you to try it out. It's really a great product, and we trust Z-Stack and Dr. Zelenko. What's the craziest conspiracy theory I've ever heard of? This might not even qualify as technically a conspiracy. I realized this has been around for a while, but I never ever heard of it. So the we're all dead theory basically said that we all died simultaneously in 2012. And where we're all living right now is in a co-creative consciousness because we all died at the same moment. And scientifically speaking, one thing happens after your heart starts beating, your brain is still active for about 7 minutes. And in those 7 minutes, you're apparently in a dreamlike state where memories and creations and dreams all come together. And of course, it only is measurable as 7 minutes to those who observe it, right? I mean, if you're a doctor observing the patient, you say, yeah, 7 minutes, and then the brain shuts off. But if you're in it, 7 minutes might seem like 7 years, 100 years. It might seem like a lifetime. We don't know, right? Because time is non-existent in the non-physical realm or when we're detached from our time-space perception. So this theory said that we all died and we're now in this space where these creations and dreamlike states come together, and we're now basically building back this one consciousness. Now, this in itself, it sounds very far-fetched, right? But why a light bulb went off in my head is because in my perception, over the last 8, 9, 10 years, I noticed something increasingly, that everything feels kind of more plastic to me, non-real, if you will. It feels sometimes weirdly off. Sometimes things that I perceived before that time period as being kind of set in stone are now different. A lot of people call this the Mandela Effect, where you remember something completely different. And that's been happening to me, I think, even before I was consciously aware of the Mandela Effect, before I even thought about these things really consciously. I thought this reality seems different. Celebrities that I remember having different names, looking differently, having different life stories, it all comes out as a very different thing. And it was like one area after the other that I examined appeared to be very different from my memory. Now you might say, you changed. Yes, definitely I did change. But these are things that, at least in our perception, are measurable. I mean, with the technology that we have, we look at things that were recorded in a certain time period and preserved, and if the recording wasn't changed, it's supposed to be the exact same as it was. Yet we go through movies that we've watched 100 times, and we're lip syncing, and all of a sudden that person in the movie is saying something different. Or we're singing along to a song we heard 1,000,000 times, and all of a sudden the ending of the song is different, the words are different. And these are just things that when they happen once, you go, okay, that was me. Twice, maybe, but 10, 15, 100 times. And this has been happening over and over and over and over again. Now, where does this thought lead me? Over the past years, something has been brought to our attention over and over again, namely the idea that we live in a simulation. And this is a challenging thought, but let's look at our current culture. Let's look at how we look at things, how we investigate things, how we research things. What we do is almost all the time, before we try something out in real life, we create a simulation for it. We try it out. I mean, if you have the technical means, you create simulations for a lot of things. I mean, what do people do when they learn to fly? They don't jump into the Boeing 747 and they take off. No, they are sitting in the simulator, and the simulator is so real. It feels so real. It sounds so real. It vibrates, it shakes, the G-forces, the instruments, everything is so real that people say over and over again, I forgot I was in a simulator. So we do this, right? The more technology that we have, the more we simulate things. And now with augmented and virtual reality, you can literally go into states with this technology where it's hard to distinguish between our perceived reality here and the virtual reality. The idea that we could be in a simulation is not as far-fetched as it sounds. And for me, it's important because it stretches my mind, it stretches my ability to think, and it also expands my consciousness. Because in order to contemplate these ideas and to reflect on these ideas, I have to allow myself to leave aside all biases that I have, and I have to accept the possibility that we do live in a simulation, besides the one that we're already talking about, which we call the Matrix, which is a system. But what if even what's outside of this perceived system is not a prime reality? And what would be a prime reality? So basically the idea is there is a prime reality. There is a prime real reality that is the basis for all simulations. And the idea is that we're not living in that prime reality now. Now, what might be the reason to simulate something? Well, we do it to research. We just said that, right? We do it in science, we do it in entertainment, we do it in medicine, we do it in everywhere. We simulate things. What would be the reason to simulate a whole reality? Now, let's look at this, and let's take time as something that has importance in this view. It could be that the prime reality, the real reality, is in the past, our perceived past, and that what we said is we're going to simulate the future by creating a set of conditions that is just like our prime reality, and we're going to let it play out in the simulation to see what will happen if we continue doing this or if we continue doing that. And then you would run one simulation that goes this path and one simulation that goes that path. And basically what we are in that scenario is avatars, right? We're like avatars in the simulation, experiencing it as real. Now, there also could be the idea that the prime reality is now, in terms of simultaneously happening, and in this prime reality, we're in deep trouble. We might be facing a natural change that is so monumental that we don't know how to survive. It might be that we are facing a nuclear war, or it might be that we're facing a threat from a different civilization. Whatever the threat might be, there might be a threat and we don't have a solution for it. So we run simulations, computer-generated simulations, to figure out what path might lead us to a peaceful and survival solution. And that to me is plausible. If we had the technology, we would do it, because that's what military does anyways. I mean, what are war games? War games are simulations where one country's military plays out a scenario, let's say America versus China or Russia, and they'll play out that scenario over and over again and try different tactics and see what would lead to success. That's a simulation that's happening. So this would be a computer-generated simulation that would look at options as to how we could survive a potential nuclear or natural disaster or an outer space threat, something like that. There could also be the possibility that this is an ancestor simulation where we are far more advanced, but we're looking back and creating simulations to understand our history better, or to see if different paths could have developed for civilization, for humanity. As you can see, you can stretch your mind as far as you want to. The reason why this is kind of plausible is because we are doing it within this reality all the time. And the more we can do, the more we do, which is which is the crap that we believe is happening, because just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. But that's our curiosity problem. We constantly mess with things we shouldn't mess just because we can, and we don't do it in a conscious way. And if you look at the movies that have discussed this, of course, Matrix comes to mind. And if you haven't seen it, I just encourage you, go watch The Matrix, the first one. It's basically where you will have the most goosebumps moments, and you'll have these, oh my God, synchronistic deja vu kind of things happening, definitely. And then there's also the Truman Show, and I want to get to a point here. The Truman Show really, for me, portrays, maybe even better, why it is important to explore these options. Because if we are in a simulation, I mean, my natural first intuitive goal would be, how do I get out of it? How do I bring this avatar back to my prime reality, which we could call higher self, which we could call our greater consciousness? But in the Truman Show, Jim Carrey movie, Jim Carrey is born into an artificial world. So there was a TV producer that came up with the Big Brother idea, the Truman Show, where he created a whole town in a huge studio, fake sky, fake ocean, fake sun, fake weather, fake everything. And they put a newborn into that world with actors all around him. His family were actors, his wife, friends, everyone were actors, and it was a TV show. Only Truman, the protagonist in a TV show, had no idea that he was in a TV show. However, as he grew older, consciousness, his own consciousness, began questioning the reality around him. It just didn't feel right or real or true or authentic to him. And he kept fighting the narrative around him. He felt an inner desire to push out of it and to explore, and something just didn't sit right with him. Something just felt off. And eventually, he overcame his fears. Eventually, he overcame his limitations. He overcame his comfort zone. And he went onto the fake ocean, and there was a huge storm. The storm was fake to keep him in. But he kept going until his boat hit the fake wall of the horizon. And when it hit the wall, he realized it wasn't real after all. And he found a set of stairs, and he exited the studio, the fake reality, the simulation. How does that translate into our world? If we are living in a simulation, it's for a reason. I believe the simulation is over when consciousness recognizes itself and its conditions. So what that means is, if we can explore ourselves enough and expand our consciousness enough, we eventually realize we have created a simulation for ourselves. We can exit it and go into the prime reality. Maybe this was created because we were so degenerated and so dangerous for the prime reality that we had to be put into a simulated reality. Really, I don't know, but I am willing to explore these questions. Now, all of these things do not deny, for me, in my view, the existence of a prime creator, of God, of the great mystery, the great spirit. We need to explore this option because our world is going batshit crazy. Every day, in so many ways, it's almost impossible to wrap my mind around the stupidity and craziness that's happening around the world. Nothing makes sense anymore. Nobody has common sense anymore. Morality, ethics, all those things are kind of going out the window. But at the same time, I also experience the deepest connections with other expanded versions of consciousness, with other people that are really expanding their consciousness, that are so broad and so beautiful and so deep that it makes me think that you and I and all of us in this beautiful community that is constantly growing, we're actually making our exit. We're making our neo move. We are red pilling ourselves. We are awakening. We are exiting. It is like a awakening from the slumber, and slowly but surely everything becomes clearer and clearer and clearer again. So to me, we don't have to die to return to prime reality. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think we need to kill this physical body to return to prime reality. I believe we can do it through consciousness alone. And perhaps we are doing it in our dreams and meditations. Perhaps that's where we enter prime reality. Now, the whole simulation idea is not new at all. In all the religions, there is a reality realm, a physical reality. There's a non-physical reality. Then there's the Maya, the great illusion. But if there's an illusion, there has to be a reality. So if this is the illusion, maybe it's the simulation. Maybe it's just wordplay here. Basically, every culture has that. Basically, every religion and belief system has that. It's just been dogmatized. It's been put in a box for you. and for me. And so I encourage all of us to jump out of that box and throw yourself into the universal ocean of consciousness and see what is being brought to you. Because chances are that we can only transform what is happening around us by expanding our consciousness far enough to grasp who we really are, what we really are, where we really come from, and what our purpose really is.